Right, so after an extraordinary end to the Ashes in Hobart, it's time for Ask George.
That's how England would do it.
So the first one is Andrew Brooks, and his is quite blunt. Did England just give up in the end, or is that harsh?
Well, I think that's a very fair question, actually, Andrew. I thought, listen, you've got to be careful because you say things in the heat of the moment, but I thought that the last 20 minutes or so of that was as soft as it gets. I'm struggling to remember a softer ending. Did it feel as if they gave up? It did a bit. And actually I said to Joe Root, he spoke to us for a bit there, that I thought the end was really, really soft, and he agreed because, you understand that they come up against teams that are better than them. You do, it happens. But I saw people backing away. I don't know, you don't expect to see that. You saw people just having hacks and swings like sort of Sunday League or Sunday Park village cricketers. I think they looked as if they're given up. Yeah, I do. They looked utterly beaten in spirit and talent in every way. And I did think actually that they gave up. But yeah, I think you're probably right.
Colin asks, surely this could be the last 5-test Ashes series in Australia for the foreseeable future?
Well, again, it's a good question because I cannot believe broadcasters. Well, already remember Sky didn't bid for this, which is telling, and they'll be reflecting on it thinking, nailed that. They made an astute business decision. So next time, the market is not going to be particularly attractive, is it? I mean, why would it be? Why would it be attractive? England are routinely getting thrashed, and this was the worst yet in a way. I know that the result isn't as bad as, a whitewash, but the margins of defeat were, cataclysmic, and basically they were saved by rain a little bit in the last game. So I don't think England could justify a 5-test series, no. Certainly not overseas. And I honestly think that this is a series that will have damaged the brand, the Ashes brand, and made it worth a lot less. And that directly comes down to the doors of the administrators of the ECB in particular. They really have ruined their best product. What an incredible testimony to their work that is.
I suppose when you consider as well the number of broadcast days BT have lost, because tests have been wrapped up in, 3 or 4 days. They must think about all the money they spent and just think, what was the point?
Absolutely. And you could maybe dismiss that if it were an aberration, but it's not, is it? What is it? Over the last 15 tests, England now will have lost, 13 in Australia and drawn 2? It's not an aberration, that, is it?
And Tom Vickers asks, there has rightly been a lot of talk about the ECB in county cricket, but do the players need to take responsibility as well?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Yes, they do. For example, we saw another wicket, which today was discounted because an England bowler, Chris Wokes, overstepped. This is sloppy. They're doing it in the nets all the time. I could post various videos of them doing it in the nets all the time. It got to the stage where a couple of us have been watching training and decided to shout, no ball, because it's, they say it doesn't matter, don't do it in the game. They do it in the game all the time. I thought, some of the shots were gormless, including Ben Stokes. Yes, of course they do. And there don't seem to be any consequences. This is the worry. What are the consequences to this? They get a couple of days off in paradise and then they go to the Caribbean in a month. Nightmare. They are tremendously well remunerated. And what's the line? He to whom much is given, much is expected. Well, they're given plenty, and we expect pretty little, really, and they're delivering even less than that. Yeah, sure it does. They looked soft and sloppy at times on this tour, and even when they were beaten out here 5-0, they didn't really look soft and sloppy.
Andrew asks, great test batsmen score in all conditions. Joe Root has 27 test innings in Australia and not scored a century. Is he a very good player but not a great one?
Yeah, in my view, yeah. I think it's really, really harsh. He's a great in England. Indisputably one of the great. He's certainly one of the best England batters of my life. Getting it all, an 11 of the last 40 years or whatever. But England 11. But he's not Brian Lara, is he?
Greg Boone asks, after making a great start to the series, is Milan still the best player to fill the number 3 role? And should Sibley get a recall with Lees and Crawley?
Well, those are the names that are going to be talked about. I'm going to cut Milan some slack. And look, I think that he has, or his wife has today said that, so I'm not, wouldn't normally betray a, sort of a secret, really. I think they've had some trouble at home. And I think his wife gave birth to their first child like 6 weeks prematurely yesterday. So, that's been hanging over his mind. And I'm going to cut him some slack for that. I spoke to him a couple of days ago and he just seemed exhausted. I thought that up until, I would judge him on the first 3 tests, I suppose. And after that, for these reasons, I would cut him a little bit of slack. But, you can't do that for very long. I dare say he'll go to the Caribbean. I think he's juggling all sorts of things as well. He wants to be a T20 player. He wants to go to obviously he does. He wants to go to the IPL and all these things. I think it'd be very difficult to achieve that. But I did think that we saw when he got those pair of 80s that he had the game to prosper at this level. And although he didn't show it again, I don't think we saw any hints really from, say, Hasib or Rory or even Ollie Pope, I'm afraid, that they had the game to even survive. So when England's batting is as weak as it is, someone who has actually shown that they can do it probably can't be thrown away.
Rhys Benjamin asks, did Burns and Crawley save their careers today?
I mean, how low are we setting the bar? I mean, Crawley didn't need to save his career, I don't think. Crawley's at a different stage of his career. And he is a young, promising guy who should be learning their trade in county cricket and grade cricket. But he's been prematurely promoted, and you can see why, because he's a talented guy who, has a lot of the tools. And I actually thought he batted pretty well today. I thought he looked as comfortable as anybody in the side. I think he top scored in the game for England, or equal top scored. Rory Burns, he's been. No, I don't think he's. We've got to set the bar a bit higher than that, haven't we? He can go back to county cricket and score bucket loads of runs and force a recall, but I do think he has to do that. Yeah, I think Alex Lees comes in.
Steve Morrish asks, who's the next cab off the rank for England batsman in tests? And he quite fancies Tom Abel.
Okay, where would Tom Abel bat? Out of interest. I think that Liam Livingstone would be one I'd be interested in the middle order. He probably bats at 5 or 6, doesn't he? I think he's got a very high ceiling, but there's a lot of... you'd be a bit concerned that he is more of the same. He's basically playing white ball cricket, a talented biffer. Top of the order, I think Alex Lees will win a chance. Whether Josh Bohannon maybe could come into the middle order, reckoning as well, perhaps he could. I'm pretty confident Ben Foakes will come back in. But, just remember that Johnny Bairstow got 100 in his previous test. Joe Root probably does stay at 4. So Johnny goes at 5 and 6 and Ben Stokes is there too. So there's not masses of room in the middle order. Odd though it sounds, there's probably only one place in the England batting lineup that's up for grabs, which is one of the opening spots. Which is odd, isn't it? Maybe they need to be much harsher. But realistically, Milan's going to stay at 3 for a bit, isn't he? They might have a new 7 in Ben Foakes. They might well, but Bairstow and that 4-5-6, I think is. I suspect you can guess what that will be in Antigua.
Daniel Chapman asks, in terms of character, heart, and focus, is this the worst England Test side of all time, apart from Mark Wood?
I mean, Ben Stokes is going to be remembered. He should be, I think, as a great of English cricket, and I think Joe Root probably is too. And then you add Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, who were there or thereabouts, and they're going to be remembered as greats of English cricket. So I'm not sure that is true. No, I think that one of the frustrating things is they're not delivering. I mean, they're clearly not a great side by any means, but they do have some really good players in, and they should be doing better than this. I think one of the real issues is we don't see anyone improve in the environment. Quite the opposite, really. And so that's something we've got to look at. But I don't know, if you look through some of the sides that played, there were some pretty weak teams that played for England over the years, But these results are as bad as it gets. I know that they've been whitewashed before. Look, I've seen England whitewashed. I was here when they were whitewashed in 13-14, and they were up against a fantastic Australia side, with a couple of the best fast bowlers you will ever see. And I saw them whitewash against the West Indies, although I was only really a boy. And they were up against an even better side. And it kind of seemed reasonable. Well, they've avoided a whitewash here because of the rain, and they're playing against a good, but absolutely not extraordinary Australia side. So it's the drop in level of performance by England here is very disappointing. But you'd have to say there's 4 or 5 or whatever players in this England squad who are probably going to be remembered as greats.
AB asks, was Broad not bowling to Warner at the Gabba England's biggest mistake?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to agree with you. I would say that Warner was bowled on 17 or 18 from a no ball, and he was dropped again before he got 50, badly in the slips. Then it doesn't look so bad, does it? So was it an error? Might well have been. Was it the most serious error? Well, the no balls and the drop catches, they're pretty serious errors too. And I'll say again, it wouldn't matter what you did if you bowled out for 147. And people will say, well, wait, they could have bowled first. Well, they could. They still would have been bowled out. I mean, consistently, what is it, 6 times they haven't reached 200? And Joe Root was just saying, we keep getting bowled out for 200. So in your dreams, mate, you don't reach 200. If they've reached 200 in the first... no, I don't think it is. I actually think that is looking for an easy, quick solution. And I think the situation's worse than that. It's not a situation that gets improved just by making a selection or tactical decision differently. It's so much worse than that.
Ken Billwright asks, is it time for those who proclaim Test cricket is the pinnacle to prove it?
What a great question. Ken, is that? Great question, yeah. Ken. I mean, you're absolutely right. Tom Harrison always says Test cricket's the pinnacle, and I think he's lying. All his actions say the opposite. You can't pretend Test cricket's the pinnacle and allow players, as he will, to stay at the IPL till the end of May and then recall them for a Test series against the World Test Champions, having not had any red ball cricket. That's palpably not true. Equally, you can't say it's the pinnacle and have white ball windows throughout the middle of the season. Remember this, with the IPL effectively being a white ball window, it is really, isn't it? You've got a white ball window that goes now into June, okay? Or at least until the end of May. And then I can't actually even remember when the Blast is starting this year, but it's halfway through May, isn't it?
I think, yeah,
so you've also already... Okay. And then you've got the 100 following on its heels. So the season is increasingly becoming a white ball window. It has all been designed to prioritise white ball cricket. We're giving up on red ball cricket. It's just a nonsense. People say these things, but look what they've done to the England Test team. Look what they've done to the brand of Test cricket. It's nonsense. And on the bright side, one of the things you may be able to take from this, a little bit of encouragement, is that the margins of defeat and the fact that this happened again today, maybe it will force people to act. Because I swear to God, they would have hidden behind 3-1 and said, yeah, you see, it's a bit of encouragement there. You see, we're going in the right direction. And this is so bad. It really felt a bit embarrassing. I've done so many of these games in Australia, and Australian crowds are so unpleasant to the English tourists and stuff. And they weren't, because basically it felt like abusing a sick man. They almost pitied them. And so there wasn't even any banter in the press box. It was just like, it's a bit embarrassing. They've come a long way, haven't they? They've all been in quarantine and locked down and all the rest of it. And they come and watch this tosh. So the bright side is that hopefully they will be forced to change things. But, I honestly think they only change things when they're dragged kicking and screaming into doing it. So I hope everyone joins the Supporters Association. And I hope everyone makes them listen, because they won't listen until we make them. They honestly won't.